Now, microscopes are a vitally important tool if you're a biologist. You use them to study small things, so they're really important for microbiology, so studying very small biological things, small biology, living things. There are basically two types of microscopes. One is the light microscope, and the other is the electron microscope. So you're probably going to be using the light microscope, if any microscope, and the reason that you'll use the light microscope, as opposed to the electron microscope, is because it is cheap, whereas the electron microscope is very, very expensive. And the reason that the electron microscope is so expensive is that it's very high technology, and because it's such high technology, you can see things up to 1,000,000 times magnification using an electron microscope. So 1,000,000 times bigger you can make things, which is huge. So you can see really amazing detail. Light microscopes are pretty good. That's what Robert Hooke used when he was doing his studies of cork cells. And they can see things up to about 1,500 magnification, maybe 1,000, if you're lucky, kind of thing. But you can see some really great detail using a light microscope. And scientists have been using light microscopes for hundreds of years to discover things. The electron microscope is newer technology, and it's still allowing us to find out just amazing things. So you'd think the light microscope is not as good, but one of the great things about the light microscope is that you can actually view specimens in live or natural color. So if you look down a light microscope, you see the color of the thing that it is, whereas an electron microscope, because it doesn't use light that we see with our eyes, it creates a monochrome image, and that basically means black and white images. So electron microscopes, you only get them in black and white. If you ever see an electron microscope picture which is colored, that's because it's been artificially colored. So scientists have added color to the image to make it look a bit better or make it a bit clearer to explain a concept. And really the last difference between a light microscope and an electron microscope is using a light microscope, you can actually see live and moving specimens. So if you get a tiny aquatic organism, or even some cells where there's some cytoplasmic flow, some of the parts of the cell are moving inside, then you can see things moving around on the microscope, which can be really informative when you're studying biology. Whereas the electron microscope, you shoot electrons at the thing, and so you can actually only view dead objects. They require a bit of preparation before they're viewed on an electron microscope, and if they're alive, that preparation basically kills them. So that's one of the advantages of a light microscope, is that you can see live things. Electron microscope, they have to be dead. So there's kind of some differences between the two microscopes. I think a really great way to see the differences between the two microscopes is to look at a couple of pictures taken through a microscope. So here I've got some cells. So these are blood cells, and this is a view through a light microscope. It's actually a really good picture through a light microscope. There's a whole bunch, all these lighter purpley colored things. These are all red blood cells. You can see they're kind of a bit whiter in the middle. That's because they're a bit thinner in the middle. They kind of dint in, but you can't really see that in this picture. These tiny ones here, I'll change the color quickly. These tinier ones here, these are platelets. So the platelets are in your blood, and they clot the blood. So if you get a cut, platelets come and they clot the blood so you don't bleed to death. And this really big one right here, this is a white blood cell. And that helps you fight disease, basically. So, but you can see, this is a great picture using a light microscope. You can clearly see there's 3 different types of cells. It's really great. But compare that picture to this one of an electron taken with an electron microscope. So this is a red blood cell. Make it red. This one's a red blood cell. You can seriously see this dent here. Really clear image of the cell and the shape of the cell. Over here this is a platelet. So this is what a platelet looks like, really up close. Looks so different to the light microscope picture. You can see such amazing detail. These kind of funny filaments coming off the cell, and that would help it clot. And you can also see here, I've also got a white blood cell. So this one's the white blood cell. And it's also got all these kind of protrusions of it, and that will help this cell to recognize diseases and pathogens in the body. So but you can see really clearly here between these two pictures that the electron microscope picture gives such greater detail than the light microscope. Both very useful in biology, but there are some differences between the two types of microscopes.